There is a drip. There is a drip. There is a drip. And if you are like me and you are neurodivergent, drips will drive you nuts. You can see why it was used as a form of torture. Well, I know I have some things to say. Whether or not I will be able to articulate them will be another question. But I'm just navigating a lot of things at the moment. I'm kind of looking back over my lifetime and my employment record, and it's pretty depressing. It's very depressing. And I think about the different jobs that I applied for over the years, and somehow I was talking to my therapist about it today, and just that sense of complete shame that I was not able to, get the jobs that I applied for. Some of them, I did get some jobs, don't get me wrong. And I don't know if I'm going to ultimately upload it, but I did go into a long, drawn out, monologue about one particular job that I had, and yeah, it just hasn't been very, what would be the word? Hasn't really been a very positive experience. And now I qualify for assistance through Department of Vocational Rehab. However, they are not sure when they're going to have funding. So I'm on this list that we don't really know when this list is going to end, when the list comes to an end. But I think I've kind of lost hope for getting a traditional job at this point. And all the while, I have had remedial jobs. I have been writing, and I have been working on music and arts. And also there was a whole decade where I was working on children's picture books. And yeah. And so basically it's very discouraging, to say the least, that you wake up like Rip Van Winkle one day and you're like, oh yeah, my whole lifetime just went by and I had no idea that I was ADHD and autistic. I had no idea. So there you go. We can throw that one into the mix. And it's a grieving process. I really think that I'm going through. And it's kind of like, I think that I get to this point where I'm like, oh yeah, I think I've addressed that, or I wouldn't say over it, but I would say like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I've processed that, and then more stuff comes up, and then I'm like, wow, yeah, no, you aren't over that yet. And I'm sure that other people have similar grieving experiences, like of a lifetime, lost. I mean, I feel like I've been lucky. I have been lucky in many ways, don't get me wrong. But, having a valid career would have been a great one. Having accommodations in college would have been a great one. Maybe even in high school, maybe even knowing, early on, but it's very common for women and girls not to be identified. Why? Because we're generally social anyway. in some ways. We can even, fake it just by kind of hanging out with the girls, and maybe there are, more neurodivergent girls that we hang out with, and I look back into my childhood and I think that other than the times that I was hanging out with boys, because for some reason it was just like maybe the logical side of my brain, I don't know, but I felt like I could relate to them better than the girls in my grade. Like, not all of them. I did have a few friends. I made this really disgusting cocktail of magnesium glycinate and black or blueberry. It's just, and it tastes like fish oil. It's just, mm-mm. Why is it that everything that's nasty tastes like fish oil? Like, anyway, yeah, I think that, the socializing that I did as a young girl was probably most likely with other neurodivergent, unnoticed, or what would be the word? Undiagnosed other neurodivergent girls. And because don't get me wrong, I had my little clique of friends, but I wasn't in like the popular group or the jocks, even though I was in pretty much all sports. But I was definitely like in the fringe groups. The stoners took me in. Mind you, I didn't really get high, but in fact, I was told by the stoners, "You're on your own high," and they were very welcoming to me to be in that clique or whatever. But maybe half of them were neurodivergent for all I know. But yeah, I never really felt like in like school, high school and junior high school, it was traumatizing. It was literally traumatizing to me because you're always changing rooms, you're always like worried about like your complexion's breaking out, and you're going through all the weird hormonal stuff, and you're having to navigate, like I was navigating the foster care system, being moved from different homes, and like no like structure or whatever. And that, for an autistic person, that definitely throws you off when you're like having to move from one classroom to another all the time. You go from being in one classroom in grade school to like having to shift it around, and then having to be in this bigger school with all these older kids, and hearing all the nightmare stories about what kids do to each other, and there was this one point where some kid got like literally thrown through a glass window. And yeah, I just don't think it's normal to stuff children all of the same age, multiple children, into this like cluster of, yeah, I don't think that's normal, and I don't think it's healthy. Probably, in our I don't know how to put it in words, but like caveman days, we definitely were not like 500 kids all of the same age hanging out together, teaching each other things. Because if you think about it, what are you really learning from your peers? A lot of rubbish, a lot of stuff that like is gonna get you into trouble. That's for sure. And that's what we did. We did get into some trouble, and anyway, yeah, I hugged the walls. I didn't really make eye contact with people. I still don't. And definitely it was very, very stressful thing for me, and probably is for most neurodivergent people, unless, you get into some really good groups. And I always liked the art classes, and then I was like the only girl in auto shop because I liked mechanical things. Also, I was the only, well, actually, I think I convinced one of my friends to join World of Construction. So, like, I was in World of Construction as well as home economics. So, you learn to sew and you learn to put a, we took a lawnmower apart, and put the little lawnmower back together. And we did stuff like, I think we built like part of a little shed thing with electrical wiring and everything. It was pretty fun. But I don't know if schools have all those kinds of things today. I mean, I think those kinds of things are what kept me sane, was the hands-on classes where I got to do stuff with my hands, like my art classes and, um, the world of construction or working on little engines or, I did like science. And at one particular point, I guess I was in advanced maths, but that kind of fizzled because I never really had parents that would like help me because I was moving from different situations to different situations based on whatever was going on at the time. One time I had to move because the woman, she got pregnant and they needed my room. So they were having foster care, had the little trailer and they had this little tiny room, and she had gotten pregnant and she was about to have her baby, so I had to go. So that was one reason why. You just never know why you have to move because of just various things, various reasons, and but yeah, so a lot of grief, I know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is at what, 5 stages? I think there's actually 6 now or something, and the last one is hope. And every time I think, oh, maybe I'm getting to the hope part or whatever, but then I begin to grieve, just some other aspect of navigating life as a neurodivergent woman. And anyway, yeah, the whole work situation. I did a little Google search about like why is it that autistic people, are underemployed or, and the main reasons are because of our sensory sensitivities. I remember I had this one job where I was a law school librarian. I was helping to set up a law school library, and I really loved that job because it was like me by myself. Every once in a while, I would meet with the county law librarian. She was an amazing lady. She had a bouffant hairdo, and um, she she ran like the county law library, and then she would come over and help me. I actually could tell you how old I am, but typing up catalog cards and pocket sleeves for the books and putting them out, and then these particular law books need inserts, so I would put the updated inserts for the case studies or whatever. Don't remember all of it now, but anyway, I had this neon light above my desk, and I told them, I was like, this light's really bothering me, doesn't it? Does it bother any of you? Like it's like flickering and it's really irritating. And I said, can you get me like a full spectrum light? At least I had some, I don't know, what would you call it, chutzpah, nerve, whatever, to be like asking for, an adjustment with the lighting. And once they got that warm full spectrum light up there, because they did it, which I was really, really happy about that. It made my job easier, and yeah, so sometimes it can be a simple thing like maybe changing out the lights or, maybe getting some kind of, being able to wear your noise canceling headphones but a library is great in general. Libraries are pretty quiet. So that's helpful. But anyway, yeah. I think the Google search that I did was saying stuff like because we don't make a lot of eye contact for interviews. I think I brought this up earlier in this video. Is neurotypical. Like all the jobs are basically designed mainly around neurotypical employees, and it's not for a lack of skills. Like I remember there was this one particular job that I was really excited to do because it was about community. It was about working to help people in the community here, and I basically do a lot of that anyway, or I had been, and I know a lot of people in the community and stuff, and that was one of the requirements. And then there was a requirement to have some schooling in, I think, social work. And so I didn't have that, but I did my best at the interview. And then I find out later, I find out from just my own deep dive into the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it basically says that as an autistic person, I have the right to get the interview questions ahead of time. And but which is kind of a double-edged sword when I think about it, because like, okay, so say that I do get an interview, right, and I say, oh, hey, by the way, I'm neurodivergent, and can I get the interview questions ahead of time, not like everybody else, but can I get that one little favor from you? And then they have that that sort of flag on you that, oh, okay, well, person is different. Do we really want to hire somebody that's different? And so you have the right to get interview questions ahead of time. Like I didn't know that, but of course I didn't even know I was neurodivergent until real recently. And so the Americans with Disabilities Act, I did a little, of course I do the research and I do a little deep dive into that, and and there's other things too, which are maybe like somehow balancing the scale a little bit for people. But anyway, it's really, I'm like, right now I'm feeling really sad, really depressed, because I remember this interview that I had for that job, and there were like 6 people like just pounding off questions to me, and a part of it was like when I was a child in the foster care system, they did the same kind of thing, this big round table, and they'd have all these different people. Well, why didn't it work out this time? Like, what'd you do this time? Like, I'm always the one doing something wrong, even if it's just like, oh, well, I think she wanted my room for her kid, she's gonna have a baby. And so there's that sort of PTSD trauma that comes up, in an interview. And I mean, I'd taken the interview workshops with WorkSource, and to all those little things, the resume, how to have pretty good resume, good typing skills, learn computer programs quickly, like, it's not for a lack of ability. And that's what the Google search said too. It's not for the lack of us being unable to do the work. It's just we have to navigate all of the sensory issues. And I don't know if I went into a little monologue, or what would we call it, about my last job, or this job that I had. I don't know if it was my last one. Yeah, I think it might be. But oh my God, so I had to learn reservation software, because it was a resort, and I learned the reservation software. I learned the layout of the whole place, which, mind you, it had multiple cabins, RV sites, tent and camping sites. And not only was I the manager, but I had to be a working manager, so I also cleaned. And so in the mornings I would go and I would go through the emails that came in, and there's just different crazy kinds of things that you have to do, as far as like, if bookings come in through like Expedia or these different sorts of booking agencies, well, sometimes they'll just auto-generate it through the computer, and then like people will get to stay in one cabin and then they get shifted mid-stay to some other cabin. So in the mornings, I'd have to like look for those and take any other reservations that came through emails and book people and all this stuff. And mind you, I would get there early and I would leave late, and I was promised like at least one day off a week. And so yeah, so then I have to like, you know, and that requires focus. Like that requires focus to be able to like answer emails, look up those kinds of issues, respond, and or you know, do plug in bookings in the reservation software. And then I was also hiring maids, and I was dealing with a like how would I put it? Before I took the job, I said, now, she had let me know that one of the workers was being demoted, that I was taking over part of his job. And so he was not really being demoted, but he was like, oh, he has just too much work to do. And I said, now, is this going to be a hostile situation? Like, am I walking into a really hostile situation? Oh, no. He knows that he knows that he needs help, right? So I get in there, and this dude's got a pistol on his hip. And he's like walking around in the office, you know, then kind of flipping his hip towards me, like, and I'm like, yeah, not a hostile situation at all, you know, like, believe me, I'm not against guns or any of that, but do you need it in a resort, on a workplace? I mean, like, maybe, because there's maybe a bear walks on the property and tries to maul somebody, I don't know, but there was that. And he would come in and he would reek like cannabis. So I'm dealing with, is this guy gonna shoot me? Because I don't know. He's like showing me that he's like you know, like whipping up his hip, you know, about like anyway, that. And then not grandpa, but the owner of the establishment lived on the property. Okay, so his room was just right off the office. So he would come in there in the mornings and kind of shoot the breeze, and I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to answer calls and, you know, sort through all these emails and check like the hip camp things and just see who's coming, who's going, which rooms we gotta clean, blah, 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 blah. Set up the maids to go there and take care of, you know, whoever, you know, schedule who's gonna come in based on the bookings, blah, 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 blah. Pay them, make sure that they're, you know, adequately clocking in, and if they didn't clock in because the machine was broke or something, I got automatically. Not to mention the remote lock fun. Oh my god. So yeah, so this lady didn't really want to pay a lot for Wi-Fi, so they were scabbing off of different little Wi-Fi's with boosters, trying to keep all the remote locks working, which the batteries would run down because they're having to endlessly ping to the Wi-Fi to make sure that these locks are being recoded between guests and stuff. And so that was a lot of fun because, like, boom, all of a sudden there's batteries down all over the place, and that kept going on all the time. So anyway, yeah, and then there were some regular people that lived there. And so what I basically did was pistol, I don't know what can I call him? You can call him the hip wiggling pistol dude. He you know, he knew all of the regular people who were living there, like long-term type of people. So I said, hey, why don't you just go ahead and continue doing that, and that way that allows me to focus on all this other stuff I get to do, you know. And yeah, and as it turns out, then I find out that no, I am not the manager, even though I've hired as a manager, but that I have to work with this guy. Okay, and that's great. Okay, that's fine. And I'm supposed to do a three-way text anytime I ask him to fix something on the property. So, like, sink too hot in one of the rooms, you know, people are going to burn their hands, you know, hey, there's a sink over. Or no, I think it was the the inspector had come and noticed that it was too hot, and so I said, "Hey, did you manage to fix that?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I fixed it." So I go and I check, and it's still super hot. Like, I'm gonna burn my hands when I wash my hands when I go to the bathroom. When I go to wash my hands, my face. We're just gonna burn the crap out of ourselves. But anyway, that's beside the point. But so yeah, so here I am. I'm in the office. I get to deal with hip pistol wiggling dude, stinking like cannabis. We've got the news blasting on a big screen TV, like just 5 feet away from me. We've got moldy basement that when the door opens, it wafts up dust, really like a lot of dust in there. But and then the owner, every night he goes out, he gets drunk, goes and drinks, drives back, comes home, wakes up, and he's like got that smell of his body that's like oozing of booze. And his daughter is a drinker too. Then like I get to hear her yelling at me on the phone, just because she's a drinker as well. And so yeah, so trying to navigate all of those kinds of sensory issues, people coming in and out of the door, because there's a retail section too. So then I'm having to like, and also like some of those locks, because some of those locks weren't working. I'd have to make sure I put a key in a secret place with people that were checking in late. So yeah, I'm tired just thinking about that job. But I did it, and I feel like I did really well. But there was a couple of things that I messed up on. Like, I'd worked 8 days straight because we had a big university group come and book the whole place. And so I was making sure that everything got cleaned, because it was a lot of units that got used. And like the following day, we're going to just have more bookings. So all of those units had to get cleaned. And so basically I used it as an opportunity to like see what all the maids were capable of. And I had hired, like 2 or 3 days prior to that, I had hired like 2 or 3 maids. And so, kind of try to set everybody up ahead of time to know what they were going to be doing based on, what I'd already seen people do or what they had done. One gal had worked for a resort and had done these small cabins. So like I had her do the big cabin with the small rooms. Anyway, and I think she's still working there, like this gal, and she wasn't on drugs. A lot of the little maids. And then here's a funny one, but not a funny one. So I told the boss, the owner's daughter, I said, yeah, one of the maids told me that pistol shaking dude, cannabis smell. He said that when they do the hide-a-beds, to just take the sheets off and shake them a little, put them back on. I assumed that she hired me because she wanted to bring her standards up. I just made that assumption, right? So I like told her that. I reported it to her, said, hey, one of the maids told me this. And she goes, oh, they're just lying. And I'm like, why would a maid lie about something like that? Like, why would you even bring it up? And yeah, so the long story short of it is, because, we are weak in the social skills, or I am. I can't speak for all autists. They say you've met one autistic person. Because maybe there's autistic people that really have that social thing down, but for me, my problem always ends up becoming like complete and utter overwhelm, and I think if I had been able to wear noise canceling headphones, or Grandpa wasn't turning on that big screen TV, blaring it first thing in the morning for me to listen to, while I'm trying to get all the really difficult things for the morning done, that might have been helpful. If the boss wasn't into like yelling at me on the phone, that might have been helpful. If the pistol carrying dude, pistol in the hip carrying dude, wouldn't like come in with his clothes and his whole body, or grandpa with his permeating skin smell of alcohol, like smells, sounds, the not being able to focus because of all of these sensory things that are going on, is just really frustrating. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the challenge of that job, and I really liked, working with some of the maids there. They, especially the ones I hired, but, it's just, I couldn't deal with the owner. The owner was abusive, to put it out there. She was abusive. Like the first couple of weeks where I was training, actually I think it was the first couple of days, she was trying to teach me this reservation software, and it's got little abbreviations for different things, like where the booking came from, whether it was Expedia or whatever the situation was, like it was a person booked it themselves or whatever, it had these little codes. And she at one point was just yelling at me. Now, what does this mean? What does that mean? What do these three mean? What does that mean? What does this mean? And I'm like, just sitting there going, I really need this job. I mean, I'm gonna do my best to like put up with this, which honestly, I should not have eaten. I should have gotten up and walked right out of there. But when you don't get these kinds of opportunities all the time, you're willing to like try and make the best of it, but that was over the top abuse, and looking back at it in hindsight. And anyway, yeah, my therapist said you need to find a job that's fit to you rather than fitting yourself to the job. So that's kind of a different concept. And yeah, not sure if I have much more to say on all of this, but it would have been nice definitely to know this a lot earlier. I have gone into Department of Vocational Rehab when I was a lot younger and said, hey, I think I need some help. I think I'm just not doing so well getting a job. And I really, or mostly keeping a job. I could kind of get jobs not too bad, too difficult, but it's just the keeping of the job. I had this one particular job where the girls would just sit in the office and do nothing, and I would just like practically do everything. And that was frustrating too, because I'm very conscientious with whatever I do. Like I'm very, try very hard in any of the jobs I've ever had, and that part can be really frustrating when people know that you're a hard worker, and then they kind of take advantage of that. But anyway, I'm hoping for better things to come. I don't know. I mean, I can't retire. I can't retire right now. And I haven't paid enough into anything to like be able to retire. So there's that, which is quite depressing. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably not the only one, you know, who's neurodivergent that has that same issue, And hopefully, God willing, hopefully there will be other opportunities. And I'm working on some art ideas. Like I'm thinking about doing, putting some art out there. And the music, I wrote a song recently, and I'm really hoping that maybe I can write some more. And I had somebody who calls him my friend said, oh, you're never going to be a singer. And yeah, of course I'm not. Like, 20-year-old, starting a music career. But I feel like with the internet today, it is possible to like at least get your music out there. You've got YouTube, and I'll probably, once I get some completed and I get them copyrighted, I'll probably just put them right on here. And I did go to an open mic the other night, and it seemed like they liked that song, so I'm kind of excited about that. But yeah, to circle back to the whole grieving process. If you just found out, if you've just been diagnosed like me, or you're in the process of thinking about doing it, or um, you're like working in that direction or whatever. Yeah, it's grieving is a process. It's not what I would call linear. It's not like you're going to just all of a sudden feel better and everything's going to be hunky dory. Um, my experience, and this is my experience with any kinds of healing processes, is, like you're going to do well for a while, and then maybe something comes up and you're like, oh, and you might have a step back, a couple steps forward and a step back. It's not like all of a sudden everything's going to be just great and you're going to feel great. It's remembering, and it's going back, and it's thinking through, how, like, I remember being on the swim team and kind of always feeling like I wished I belonged with the other girls. I never felt like I belonged with the girls in the team. I always kind of felt like I was this one over here on the side. And even though like I lettered in varsity swimming and I gave points to my team, I always kind of felt like, not kind of, but always felt like an outsider. And I think that's a pretty common feeling for neurodivergent people, just not feeling like you fit in. And hey, we are different. So there's that. And that's okay. They're different. We're different. They're different. Come on, they're different too. Like it's a matter of your perspective, like where you're coming from when you're looking. So, and I have heard too is that some companies actually look for people. They look for the freaks like us. Some companies actually, appreciate the way our brains work and the way we can organize and the way, uh, you know, we think outside the box. Hell, there ain't no boxes here. There's no boxes. We do a lot of spinning too. Maybe we can get everybody dizzy while we're at it. I have done quite a few other little videos of hiking or jogging, but for some reason I'm having some difficulties uploading stuff. I don't know. I had that problem before, but I've kind of got a backlog of stuff. So I'm hoping if you're watching that to like see the changing of the seasons, like I'm out there going, wow, the blackberries already getting ripe now. So I got to get on it and do some more to get you updated to the seasonal changes that are happening. What have I noticed? There is a weed out there called, what did I say it's called? It's not yarrow, it's tansy out there, and it's gotten really tall, and pretty soon I see the little flowers on it. And even though it's like really bad for cattle, I think, and horses, it's pretty. It's kind of pretty to look at, and it's been, um, getting ready to flower and stuff. And I'm trying to think. Oh, and the maple seeds are definitely getting thicker, and I've been seeing a lot of squirrels out there lately. Thought I saw a black squirrel, which is kind of weird, but then I realized maybe it's just it was kind of in the shade, so it sort of looked like it was black. But black squirrels are common in some places. I haven't really seen any signs of bears or, yeah, I haven't really seen. But of course, the berries aren't completely in yet, so once the berries are in, and if I'm doing the trail work, I will show you if I see any signs of a bear. So, well, this is my beautiful, beautiful frog candle, which I'm going to blow out because I think this nasty concoction is starting to make me feel sleepy. So bad. Ugh. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever taken magnesium glycinate, but it's horrifying. I've tried multiple ways to try and mask it. Oof. But yeah. Anyway, I got a lot of things that's going on in my brain lately. I'm still doing the interstitial, the interstitial journaling, and you can Google that and look it up. And I don't know, I find that it makes me feel less guilty. I mean, I still have things that I know that I need to do or that I want to be doing, and it kind of, I'm going to look into it a little deeper because I'm wondering, like, why is this a good thing for people with ADHD to do this? I do know one thing that it's doing for me, which kind of my mind mapping flow charts that I use to get things done seem to also do a similar thing. But this is, I don't know, maybe this is usually more of my left brain than my right brain. I'm not sure, but I do notice one thing, and that is it was an easy habit for me to get into. And I used to record, like I had what was called my habits chart, right? And I'm trying to establish certain daily habits. And I was doing pretty good with that for a long time until, I don't know what this is, but until a friend looked at it and he was like, well, what are all those gaps? Mind you, it's like practically the whole page is filled up, but occasionally there's like a space between a few things here and there, right? That like maybe I didn't jog for 4 days for some reason, or I didn't drink my 2 glasses of water in the morning or whatever. And he was just like, why are there these gaps? And I was just like, after that, I stopped doing it. And for some reason, that seems to be a thing with me. Is like, if something, I don't know, maybe that's the, what do they call that? Pathological demand avoidance. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe that's not in that realm, but for some reason, just I guess that was basically discouragement. Instead of going, oh my God, look at all the stuff you've accomplished, because I would do it as a habit every morning. I would write down, I would tick the boxes of the things I did the day prior. And I was just, I was in a groove. I've been doing it for like, I don't know, like 6 months, and I was really getting good. And I may do it again. And I did it with different color pens and stuff. So it was really kind of fun, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, with the interstitial journaling, I feel amazing that I've, like, when I look back at it and I go, like I was talking to my therapist this morning, and I'm like, God, after I had my coffee, I was just so exhausted. I was just so exhausted. And then I said, and you know what I did? I went back and I looked through my journal, and I had done like about 50 different things by 9 o'clock. And she goes, do you realize you did more by 9 o'clock than I do in a whole day? And I'm like, okay. So it's like, I have a reason to be tired. I think that interstitial journaling, I get a lot more done. Like, I get a lot more accomplished. So if you're younger than me, do it, because if you want to get stuff done, I think the biggest takeaway I get from it is it makes me feel how can I put it? Like, I think I've always had this shame based feeling of like, I don't do enough. I'm not getting enough done. I'm not getting any traction in life. I don't make anything happen, you know? And I think with the interstitial journaling, it's like, it's a document saying, look, you did 2 loads of laundry, you watered the plants, you got your dishes ready to get washed, you cleaned out the cap. This is basically what I did this morning. Cleaned out the cat boxes, took out the garbage, got the B&B ready, did put the laundry in the basket for the B&B, folded stuff, put stuff in the washer, put stuff in the dryer, blah 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 blah. Um Watched a video on a song I'm trying to learn, practice a little bit on that song I'm trying to learn. You know, got got oh, I did like an exercise for songwriting, and anyway, so that and more probably. And so, like by 9 o'clock I'm like, I'm trying to drink some. I drink decaf, but I'm drinking the coffee. I'm like, why do I just feel so tired all of a sudden? And then, so there's that, and then so now I have to try and figure out, okay, so I feel less guilty about not getting things done. I'm getting a lot done, and now it's getting those things that I'm getting done to be more focused on what is really important. So I don't know. It's just a process, and I will probably put my candle out. That probably meant I was supposed to say goodbye. It's a process. Grieving is a process. I'm trying to wrap this up a little bit somehow. Grieving is a process. Healing is a process. None of it happens all at once. It's going to take time and tears and frustration and like digging deeper to try and understand where this is coming from, where I'm coming from, learning more about like shame and I'm getting sick from this stuff. But anyway, I think I better say goodnight.